إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدى هدى محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. After praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and sending immense greetings and salutations upon the final Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, as we come to the conclusion of Ramadan and the conclusion of the Quran, there are certain key words inside the Quran, or phrases, or words, or ayat inside the Quran that begin to, we can use such words linguistically, that begin to rhyme and they begin to chime, for a reason that the person may begin to reflect over the verses of the Quran, and glimpses of words and connotations of the Quran begin to come into the mind of the individual. Amongst the most profound verse that maybe all of us have memorized by the end of Ramadan and the previous Ramadans, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. Or you believe fasting has been prescribed for you as it was prescribed to those individuals that came before you. For which purpose? لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, that you may attain piety. And this phrase of لَعَلَّكُمْ is repeated inside the Quran in numerous formats about speaking about certain things. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ تَذَكَّرُونَ تَدَبَّرُونَ تَفْهَمُونَ, that maybe you may ponder, reflect, understand, see these signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ, that you may be grateful servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is what real al-ibadah is. Ash-shukr lillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because many of us, we feel this perception, this culture, or this upbringing inside our lives. قَدْ أَدَّيْتُ الْفَرِيضَةِ, I've carried out the obligatory action. I came for Yawm al-Jumu'ah. I fasted. I've done these actions. As if we tick these actions. This is sometimes, unfortunately, our perception of what Islam is. Maybe technically and in a legal manner, you have أَدَّيْتَ الْفَرِيضَةِ, you have carried out the obligatory action. This is kalam al-fuqaha. This is Jewish discussion, and it begins to say you've carried out the obligation. But is that the real concept of Islam? Is that the real concept of ibadah? That I just carried out this takalif, this responsibility for me, I carried it out inside my life. That's not what real ibadah is. لأن ibadah تأتي من داخل من قلوبنا. Ibadah comes from within your inner heart. Because you worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with a form of shukr, obedience, gratitude, thankfulness. This is how you worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You don't enter into a realm of theological discussions about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that many of us become. That's how we focus upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We can't seem to understand the deeper meaning of what ibadah is, what worship belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And even before we traverse this journey of ashukr, what is our relationship with the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Kam minna nafham kalam Allah. How many of us understand the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What is being recited to us? What is being said to us? Even these small words, some of us are so far away from these small words. That's why we find that many ulama are taking these small words, these small phrases. They base books of tafasir based upon this. Take for example Tafsir al-Jalalain of Jalaluddin al-Muhalli wa Jalaluddin al-Suyuti. Simple words that we find. What are the meaning of these words that occur inside the Quran? How many of us are taking the effort to read this, to try to decipher this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying to me? Aysur al-Tafasir of Abu Bakr Jazairi in 3 volumes, speaking about basic words inside the Quran. Imam Sa'di's tafsir inside 1 volume, teaching us the basic meaning of the words of the Quran. For what purpose? And even simple words that we find, if you go into a deeper meaning, the ulama begin to dissect the Quran, Qurtubi, al-Tabari, and other ulama that we find, dissecting one single word, and even beyond that, one single haraka. From a fatha to kasra can change the whole dynamics of a verse. Can change the whole dynamics of the meaning. Take it from a legal, something which is permissible, to something impermissible. But we are far away from the Quran. in our journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we read, as Imam Qurtubi says, there is a message from your king. And some of us, we just show reverence to this message. We kiss it, we wrap it in a green cloth, and we place it on a high shelf, which we should do to a certain degree. But who is the loyal servant? Who is the loyal servant to the king? Is one who reads the message and understands the message, implements the message. Those are وَعِبَادُ الرَّحْمَنَ الَّذِينَ يَمْشُونَ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ هَوْنًا وَإِذَا خَاطَبَهُمُ الْجَاهِلُونَ قَالُوا سَلَامًا. They are عِبَادُ الرَّحْمَنِ, who understand the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار لآيات لأولي الألباب الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا سبحانك فقنا عذاب النار. Those are real people of understanding. You see the alternation of night, the day, the heavens and the earth, and say, Allah, you haven't created this in vanity. There must be a purpose of why I've been created, what I'm doing upon the face of this earth. وَفِي أَنفُسِكُمْ أَفَلَا تُبْصِرُونَ. Amongst your own selves, your bodily structure, your organs, is signs for you to reflect about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. سَنُرِيهِمْ آيَاتِنَا فِي الْآفَاقِ وَفِي أَنفُسِهِمْ حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَهُمْ أَنَّهُ الْحَقُّ. We show them our signs all around them, in the horizons, in the heavens and the earth. So then we begin to recognize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-haq, is the one that is to be worshipped. So Allah is worshipped by a ta'ah, by a shukr, obedience, gratitude towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَاشْكُرُوا لِلَّهِ إِن كُنْتُمْ إِيَّاهُ تَعْبُدُونَ. Allah mentioned Surah Al-Baqarah, وَاشْكُرُوهُ. If you really true worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, show your gratitude towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't think that as-salah is something burdensome. That's right at the beginning of the Quran, it begins by speaking about as-salah. وَإِنَّا لَكَبِيرَةٌ إِلَّا عَلَى الْخَاشِعِينَ. It's going to be something difficult, except for those individuals who are submissive, committed to the salah. And those individuals, الَّذِينَ يَظُنُّونَ أَنَّهُمْ مُلَاقُو رَبِّهِمْ. Dhann, that most of you think that dhann means conjecture. But look at the Arabic dynamics of the language. Dhann huna bima'na yaqinan, imanan. They know for a fact they're going to meet their Lord, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. Successful are those individuals submissive inside their prayers. Rather, what do we find in society? Technicalities. This person stood like this, he placed his hands like this, he moved like this, he done. Most of the time, that's all it is, niqash, fi salah. حتى في داخل الصلاة. الشخص بجانبك ما يحتم إلا كيف صليت. Person next to you, all they're worried about inside their salah is how you pray. So as soon as you finish your prayer, they can rectify your prayer. Is that what prayer is supposed to be? تشغل نفسك بالآخرين. Just busy yourself about who around you, how they're praying, how they offer their prayer. Take yourself away from the soul, the spirit of as-salah, of commitment, of devotion towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what was known as talbis of Iblis, deception of the devil to derail us from those things that we should be focusing inside our lives to understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us to do, or what the meaning of ibadah is. Again in Surah Al-Baqarah, I mentioned, فَاذْكُرُونِي أَذْكُرْكُمْ وَاشْكُرُوا لِي وَلَا تَكْفُرُونَ. Allah says, remember me and I'll remember you. What does it mean to remember Allah? إِذَا كُنْتَ فِي الصَّلَاةِ, you're in salah, thinking about other things. How are you remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Remember me, I'll remember you. Give thanks to me and I'll give thanks to you. Give you gratitude, increase you. Whoever thanks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increases those individuals inside showing gratitude towards those individuals. And the strange thing is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala straight after this verse mentions about the believing individuals, those individuals who establish their prayer and have patience. And then it carries on to mention about الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ, calamity comes upon them. They are patient regarding this. That's why Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyya, he mentioned that what is al-Iman? Al-Iman bayna sabri wa shukri. Iman is between patience and gratitude. That's the two halves of what Iman is. That your gratitude is before any calamity, any hardship. That's real ibadah. That's what some ulama of tazkirah speak about. Ibadah in state of adversity, hardships is easy at times. Because any normal individual, when they're afflicted with adversity, will return back to فَفِرُّوا إِلَى اللَّهِ, flee back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But in times of bliss, of happiness, some of us, we don't show that gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So some say that's a higher maqamat, that in station of goodness, that person is calling out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As we look at Yunus alayhi salam, that he was the individual inside dhulumat, inside the darkness of the night, the darkness of the thunderstorm, the darkness of the ocean, the darkness of the whale of the belly. Dhulumat. بعد ظلمات, ظلم بعد ظلم. Inside there, what did Yunus alayhi salam, what did he do? فنادى في الظلمات أن لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين. He called out in the realms of darknesses, called out to Allah. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين. Read the works of Tafasir. Malaika said, we know this voice. This is a voice that's known to us that you should call upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فاستجبنا له ونجيناه من الغم. We responded to his call, we took him out of his calamity. Look at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَكَانَ بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ رَحِيمًا. Look at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What did he conclude this verse by mentioning? وَكَذَلِكَ نُنْجِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. And likewise we rescue the believers. كأن هذه الإشارة, هذا الدعاء إشارة للمؤمنين. Whoever calls upon Allah, لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين, I will respond to that call. وكذلك ننجي المؤمنين, I will deliver, rescue the believers who have that conviction in me, call upon me, believe in me, have that gratitude inside their hearts towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as we find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given these faculties which have been given to us. وَجَعَلَكُمُ السَّمْعَ وَالْأَبْصَارَ وَالْأَفْئِدَةَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ, inside Surah Al-Nahl that we find. But this verse comes 4 times inside the Quran. One with لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ, other 3 times قَلِيلًا مَا تَشْكُرُونَ. Inside Surah Al-Mu'minun that we find, Alif Lam Mim Sajda, Surah Al-Mulk. Allah says 3 times, we gave you these faculties of hearing, of seeing, of feelings. قَلِيلًا مَا تَشْكُرُونَ. Very small amount that you give gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah mentioned about Dawood alayhi salam, speaking about what he said to his people. اعملوا آل داود شكرا وقليل من عبادي الشكور. Oh, Dawood, give gratitude. وقليل من عبادي الشكور. Only a few servants are going to be grateful. There was many of the ulama, they said that make me amongst those qaleel. Make me amongst those small few people who are giving shukr lillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why Surah Al-Nahl that we find is a surah, time again, وَجَعَلَ. We gave you children, we gave you grandchildren, we gave you wealth, we gave you property, we gave you life, we gave you all these things. That's what ulama said that Surah Al-Nahl, the 16th chapter of the Quran, is called Surah Al-Ni'am. Surah of blessings. That time and time again Allah gives these blessings upon us. But look how we deal with the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inside our lives. وَلِتَبْتَهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. That you begin to seek the virtue, the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You become grateful. You do increase of wealth, of health, of knowledge, of time. All of this is for what purpose? Why does Allah deliver it to? Why does Allah give it to a person? Why does Allah give it to us Muslims specifically? What purpose? To squander our lives? To waste our lives? Waste our time? Just to become the average minimal individual inside our lives? It's a trust from Allah. إِنَّا أَرَدْنَا الْأَمَانَةَ عَلَى السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَالْجِبَالِ. Allah gave the trust to the heavens, of the heavens and the earth, and the mountains, gave it to them, offered it to them. فَأَبَيْنَ أَن يَحْمِلْنَهَا. They refused to take it. Because they knew what it meant. فَحَمَلَهَا الْإِنسَانِ إِنَّهُ كَانَ ظُلُومًا جَهُولًا. But this bashar, this human being, he decided to take it. And he's going to be oppressive. He doesn't know how to deal with the trust that Allah has placed upon him, what he needs to do inside his life. But there's going to be certain individuals who know how to fulfill that trust and show gratitude towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَابْتَغُوا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ رِزْقٍ وَاعْبُدُوهُ وَاشْكُرُوا لَهُ وَإِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ. Seek your sustenance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So even your sustenance, the things that you do, and thank Allah, praise Allah. Person should be in alhamd. You find some narrations, every time you eat food, every bite, every morsel, you should praise Allah. You should thank Allah every time, thank Allah. That what we see, the world around us, all of us, all this whole month of Ramadan, is there any individual among us who can really honestly complain? That we haven't ate well, we haven't dressed well, we haven't had a good life well. Compare that to what's taking place in the world around us. So the least that we can do is have that shukr. And as we want to depict this concept of shukr in a vision, in an image, that was displayed to the Prophet ﷺ, about a hadith that comes inside in chapter 5 of Riyadh al-Salihin, of Bab al-Muraqabah, of the chapter speaking about being vigilant about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even though this hadith we placed in Bab al-Shukr, in a chapter of gratitude towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. that regarding 3 people from Bani Israel who existed before, that how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to test these individuals, see how these individuals, how they're going to behave regarding the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That there was 3 individuals, Abras, Aqra, wa A'ma. A person who was suffering from Hansen's disease, and leprosy, skin disease. Aqra, a person with a bald-headed individual, lost his hair and a condition with his hair. Wa'ama, kafif, and a person who's blind. 3 individuals that they were there. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to test these individuals, see how these individuals are going to behave inside their life. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent an angel to the first individual suffering from his skin disease and asked him, Ayyu shay ahabbu ilayk? What's the most beloved thing to you that you want? He said, Jild al-Hasan, Lawn al-Hasan. I want this good skin and a good texture, good skin color. Because of people that they are blaming me for, looking at me and what they say about me. I just want to have these good conditions inside my life. فَمَسَحُ, the angel, he swiped him. He wiped over him. And his skin disease went away. And he asked him, فَأَيِّ شَيْءٍ مِنَ الْغَنَمِ أو مِنَ الْمَالِ تُرِيدُ? What things amongst the wealth do you want? He said, I want either a camel or al-baqarah. قَدْ شَكَّ الرَّاوِي, but الصحيح أنه he wanted a camel. So he was given a camel, a she-camel was given to this individual. And he said that, may Allah bless you inside this, and walked away from this individual. Then the angel, he came to the second individual, Al-Aqra, the one with suffering from hair loss, and said, what do you want? He said, I want good hair, fine hair. I want it to come back to me, that this blame that people are placing upon me. So the angel wiped his head and his hair returned back. He said, what things do you want from the wealth? He said, Al-Baqarah, I want cows. It was given to this individual. And then he said that, may you be blessed in what's been given to you. Came to the third individual, Al-A'ma, the blind individual. Said, what do you want? He just said, I just want my eyesight just to be able to see again. There's some of the ulama of hadith, they write that the first 2 individuals, they went beyond their request. They didn't just say hair, they said, want good hair, fine skin, good skin. This individual just said, having ishara, that this person is just going to be content with a small amount. He just said, just give my sight back, so I'm just able to see people. He doesn't ask for a sharp sight, a good sight. Just return my sight, I'm able to see. ماذا تريد من المال? What do you want from the wealth? He didn't ask for the highest commodity of camels or cows. He said, al-ghanam, some sheep, some lamb, whatever, maybe give it to me. And he's given 2 sheep or 2 lambs. From there it began to increase. So each one of them had wadin, had a valley of camels, a valley of cows, a valley of sheep. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will test them. This is sunnat Allah al-ard. Test isn't sometimes always calamities. Test is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to see how we conduct ourselves inside our life. It's easy to say, قَالَتِ الْأَعْرَابُ آمَنَّا. The Arabs said they believe. Quran rebukes you, you haven't believed. وَلَكِنْ قُولُوا أَسْلَمْنَا. You've only submitted. أَمْ حَسِبْتُمْ أَن تَدْخُلُوا الْجَنَّةَ وَلَمَّا يَأْتِكُمْ مَثَلُ الَّذِينَ خَلَوْا مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ مَسَّتْهُمُ الْبَأْسَاءُ وَالضَّرَّاءُ وَالزُّلْزِلُوا. Has not the parable come to those people that came before you? That you think you're just going to go into paradise? مَسَّتْهُمُ الْبَأْسَاءُ وَالضَّرَّاءُ وَالزُّلْزِلُوا. They were tested with afflictions and hardship and calamities, and the earth began to shake underneath them. Until even the messenger, those that with them said, مَتَى نَصْرُ اللَّهِ أَلَا إِنَّ نَصْرَ اللَّهِ قَرِيبٌ. Surah Al-Ankabut, Alif Lam Mim, أَحَسِبُ النَّاسُ أَن يُتْرَكُوا أَن يَقُولُوا آمَنَّا وَهُمْ لَا يُفْتَنُونَ. Do you think you're going to say that you believe you're never going to be tested inside your life? وَلَقَدْ فَتَنَّ الَّذِينَ مِن قَبْلِهِمْ. We did test the people that came before you, and we're going to test you to establish what? فَلَيَعْلَمَنَّ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ صَدَقُوا وَلَيَعْلَمَنَّ الْكَاذِبِينَ. So Allah can establish who are the truthful individuals and those who are liars. Allah wants to sift out those who really believe, those who really give shukr, those who really focus inside their life, and those who just happen to be just the average individuals. So Allah returns His angel back to the first individual. فِي صُورَتِهِ وَحِيَتِهِ. Allah returns the first individual, the angel, in a state with a skin disease and a state of poverty. Tasawwaru, reflect over this image. The angel returned back in the same condition his first individual was in. And he comes to me and he says to him, you can see my condition. Just give me some food, some wealth, some property so I may get to the end of my destination. Looks like you've been blessed so much by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَقَالَ حُقُوقٌ كَثِيرًا. He said there's many responsibilities. علماء حديث كأن هذه الإشارة أنه كاذب. This is a symbol, he's a liar. They're making these كلمات, this phrase حقوق كثيرة, many responsibilities, لأنه في الأصل ما يؤدي أي حق. Because that's he doesn't give any rights to anybody. It's just words that he says, I've got so many responsibilities, so I can't give you anything. What does this individual say to him? كأنني أعرفك. As if I know you. أما كنت عبرس وفقيرا. Was you not an individual who is suffering from leprosy? And was you not an individual who is a poor individual? What would you expect this individual to say? You'd expect this individual to humble himself. فقال ورثت كابرا عن كابر. So what are you talking about? I've always been inside this condition. I inherited this wealth and this property from generation upon generation upon generations. Kufr ni'am. Being arrogant. Generation upon generation will be given this to me. I was never in this state. This person says to me, if you're lying, فَسَيَّرَكَ اللَّهُ إِلَى مَا كُنْتَ. May Allah return you back to how you was before. And this individual returns back to his previous state. Angel walks to the second individual, who is an aqra with a hair condition, and says to him, في هيئته وصورته, comes in a condition, lost his hair, suffering his disease, impoverished state, says to this individual, give me something I may go, I've got no one to ask. Because I've lost the path. Are you able to support me? This individual gives the same response, I'm not able to do so. So the individual warns him as well, and returns back to his original condition. He comes to the third individual and asks him. And this individual says, خُذْ مَا شِئْتَ وَاتْرُكْ مَا تَشَاءُ أو كما قال. The third individual, what does he say to him? He says, take what you want to take and leave whatever you want to take. Because why? How much can he carry? How much can he take? If I've got a valley of sheep, a valley of lamb, and a poor person comes to me and just asks me for something, some food and some drink, and how much is he going to carry? And the angel person says to him, there's nothing that I want from you. I have just come a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your two comrades, they failed the test. They failed the test and you passed the test. And that's all that this life is. هو الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا. Allah created death and life. ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا. To see who of you is going to do the best in actions. It's not always kathratul a'mal. It's not excessive actions. Who does the best of actions? That's what Imam Fudayl inside Tafsir al-Baghawi mentions. أخلصه وأصوبه. What is pure and what is correct. What is pure is ما كان لله سبحانه وتعالى. What is pure is done sincerely seeking the face of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وأصوبه, what is correct, which is according to the sunnah and the teachings of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And Ibn Kathir is on his tafsir at the end of Surah Al-Kahf, the 18th surah, verse 110. وَقُلْ إِنَّمَا أَنَا بَشْرٌ مِثْلُكُمْ يُوحَى إِلَيَّ أَنَّمَا إِلَهُكُمْ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ فَمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو لِقَاءَ رَبِّهِ فَلْيَعْمَلْ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا وَلَا يُشْرِكْ بِعِبَادَةِ رَبِّهِ أَحَدًا. In his tafsir he mentions exactly the same two principles. A different mufassir from a different generation, different time. He said same things. If you want your actions to be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is first make sure your actions are sincere. And secondly, make sure your actions are in accordance with the sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And that's what this world is in it. There are people whose actions are away from the sunnah. Our task is to encourage them. Is to remind them. It's not to belittle them. Because their intentions are sincere. But it has lost the action towards the sunnah. And there's many of us that we feel that we know what the sunnah is, but what is our intent as we began with? What is our intent? To undermine people, to belittle people, to look down upon people. Jannah is not for you. It's not for me. We have no criteria of who goes to Jannah, who doesn't go to Jannah. Jannah is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَاللَّهُ يَدْعُو إِلَى دَارِ السَّلَامِ وَيَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ إِلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ. Jannah is for Allah. It's for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wallahu yad'u ila Dar al-Salam. Allah calls to Dar al-Salam. Wa Dar al-Salam min asma' al-Jannah. It's one of the names of Jannah. That's why this Ramadan, month of Ramadan, wa futtihat. Futtihat. It doesn't just mean open, it means swung open. They're open now for a day or so. They're flung open for any Muslim. It doesn't say for a certain type of Muslim, a certain attire, a certain dress, a certain speech. Allah doesn't have that criteria that some of us that we think. Because it's a sickness inside our heart. Because we have this always, but he was like this, but she was like this. Why do we have this inside our hearts? Why do we have this about another Muslim? When the Quran is saying, believe in those individuals. ربنا اغفر لنا ولإخواننا الذين سبقونا بالإيمان ولا تجعل في قلوبنا غلا للذين آمنوا. Take away rancor, ill feelings from our heart. As we began with the inner core of Islam, we have to develop that inside our lives. Because many of us will live this external, I keep on saying these words, and I find these words offensive. I have to say them. This garb of Islam, this display of Islam, that this is what Islam is far beyond that. It's far beyond that what we think, this display of entering Islam. The journey of Islam, fi qulubihim maradun fazadahum Allahu marada. Is this the heart? يوم لا ينفع مال ولا بنون إلا من أتى الله بقلب سليم. Your children in the world will not avail you, except for a person who comes with what? A sound, a pure heart. A pure heart. That's what this journey in the dunya is trying to find, a pure heart in devotion, commitment towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَقُولُ قَوْلِ هَذَا وَاسْتَغْفِرُ لِي وَلَكُمْ وَلِجَمِيعِ الْمُسْلِمِينَ فَاسْتَغْفِرُوهُ إِنَّهُ هُوَ الْغَفُورُ الرَّحِيمُ. الحمد لله رب العالمين وأصلي وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تمسك بسنته إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. All this inspiration that we take from the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is how our individual should be. That a person who's been reading through the Quran, studying the Quran, trying to live their life according to the Quran, it will show the person the right path, leading them to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As we began with more, that we drift away from the language of the Quran, the understanding of the Quran. And as we find that the whole role of the world around us to take us away from the language of the Quran. People who understand the Quran and people who live by the Quran, it guides them. As the Quran mentioned, whoever follows the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, فَلَا يَضِلُّ وَلَا يَشْقَى. Inside Surah Taha, Allah mentions that a person who follows the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, فَلَا يَضِلُّ وَلَا يَشْقَى, is never lost. Is never misguided away from the path. وَلَا يَشْقَى, is never wretched. Maybe as human beings, times we get upset of challenges of life, that's normal. But doesn't become over worried. Doesn't lose focus. Even at the beginning of Surah Taha, Allah mentioned Taha. ما أنزلنا عليك القرآن لتشقى. Wallahi, Quran ajib. Allah doesn't say send down this Quran to make it hard for you. That's not what the Quran is. Quran is like water that flows. That's what the Quran is. It flows in your life. Flows in your blood. Flows in everything you do. The barakah of the Quran inside your life. There's a water person travels, traverses the Quran and takes them closer and closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it gives individuals, those who believe in Allah, whether male or female, فَلَنُحْيِيَنَّهُ حَيَاةً طَيِّبًا, will give them a good life. What is a good life? Good life is what we see at the moment, all of us. And even beyond that, spiritually. Alhamdulillah, الَّذِي هَدَانَ لِهَذَا وَمَا كُنَّا لِنَهْتَدِيَ لَوْلَا أَنْ هَدَانَ اللَّهُ. Praise be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, guide us to Al-Islam, the greatest blessing. The greatest blessing upon the human being on the face of this earth is to be guided as a Muslim. وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. To make that dua, don't make me die, except the state of being submission to Allah. قُلْ إِنَّ الصَّلَاةِ وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ لَا شَرِيكَ لَهُ وَبِذَلِكَ أُمِرْتُ وَأَنَا أَوَّلُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. And in Surah Al-An'am that we find, Surah of Tawheed, nothing but Tawheed, belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What does it believe? That everything in my life is committed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. My prayers, my sacrifice, my living, my dying, everything in my life, ala lillahi deenul khalis. To Allah belongs pure, sincere deen. Is committed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As I Sulaiman, as I read through the Quran, how they gave thanks when the blessings are given to Sulaiman alayhi salam. What does he say? قال هذا من فضل ربي. This is a virtue from Allah. To see whether I'm going to be grateful or ungrateful. He recognized that Sulaiman alayhi salam, that all these blessings have been given, control of the jinn, the throne of Bilqis, the jinn working for him, wealth, power, being the only most powerful king on the face of this earth. But he recognized what? This is just a test from Allah. If I'm going to be grateful, I'm going to be ungrateful towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Luqman alayhi salam. وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَا لُقْمَانَ الْحِكْمَةَ أَنِ اشْكُرْ لِلَّهِ. We gave Luqman wisdom, knowledge, understanding, what purpose to see. You're going to give thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as we mentioned about Dawood alayhi salam, اعملوا آل داود الشكر وقليل من عبادي الشكور. Give thanks to Allah. O family of Dawood and you Dawood alayhi salam. Only few servants are grateful. وعلى رأسهم نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. And upon all the leader صلوات الله وسلامه عليه. وما أرسلناك إلا رحمة للعالمين وما أرسلناك إلا كافة للناس بشيرا ونذيرا ولكن أكثر الناس لا يعلمون. We send you the warner to all of mankind, a mercy to all mankind, the leader of all of the Anbiya. 1443 years have gone by. There's only one man who still conquers and rules this earth, rules this dunya. Legend lives on. Power lives on. There's only one individual. وَهَذَا نَبِيُّنَا مُحَمَّدٌ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم. وَرَفَعْنَا لَكَ ذِكْرَكَ. Raise high your remembrance. وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. Sublime manifest character and behavior. Legend still lives on. Read about the Prophet ﷺ. Instill that inside your life. Don't follow icons and symbols around us. The benchmark is the Prophet ﷺ. لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. Read his seerah, his life. What he went through inside his life and how he stood there and he prayed. And his wife Aisha says to him, why all this prayer? إِنَّا فَتَحْنَا لَكَ فَتْحًا مُبِينًا. We're giving this manifest victory. Your previous mistakes or sins or whatever it may be, discrepancies have been forgiven and future things. Why are you doing this? His feet would swell at night. They would swell. And what did he say? أَفَلَا أَكُونُ عَبْدًا شَكُورًا. Should I become a grateful servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Showing gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That was our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Always in a state of remembrance and gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the tawfiq and ability to find the moments of Ramadan, to find the path of shukr, the path of gratitude, the path of taqwa, of righteousness, of pondering and reflecting as we began with. Finding that path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to take us in a state of iman and conviction towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inna Allah wa malaikatu yusalluna ala al-nabi ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasana wa fil akhirati hasana wa qina adhaban ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. ربنا اغفر لنا ولإخواننا الذين سبقونا بالإيمان ولا تجعل في قلوبنا غلا للذين آمنوا ربنا إنك رؤوف رحيم. ربنا أفرغ علينا الصبر وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. قوموا لصلاتكم يرحمكم الله.